Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to elaborate the 7 C's of communication by Dr. Jim Stull. Most of you must be familiar with that, but nevertheless, some new entrants, the students of BBA in my class actually this morning discussed about it. So it actually struck to me that I should write something down for those students who are not my students and those who do not attend G Institute can get advantage out of this video. So this 7 C's of communication by Dr. Jim Stull, all as under. The first one is clear. Now, he has emphasized clear word as the number one characteristic of effective communication, not just any communication. People talk on the street and people talk in the bar and the people talk here and there and the people sit on the road in the street corner and they talk about this. Is also communication, but that's not effective communication. That communication does not have any kind of substance, any kind of significance, any kind of vitality, any kind of importance. I would not call it a communication, but it is just a gibberish, a babble, nothing else. Babbling about is not communication, and the communication is not babbling about. So first characteristic of communication is clear, meaning communication from both the interlocutor, both the person who are engaged in communication must have this idea in their mind very clearly, very concisely, very predominantly that the communication must be clear, not vague communication, but totally vivid. Both can understand each other, both can understand each other's language, both can understand the tone and the tenor of communication, both can understand the point each person, each interlocutor is trying to make, and both the interlocutors must be able to fathom, able to follow, able to agree or disagree the communication that is called clear communication. If someone tells you something and if you don't agree, then it is actually very important for you. It is very significant for you that you clearly decline that I don't agree with you. Otherwise, that person, that communicator or that interlocutor is going to get negative impression from you that you did not speak anything, so must means you accepted it. So you accept, if you accepted it, if you don't accept, then reject it. That is called clear communication. Interlocutors must not leave the place with wrong impression about the communication they had with each other. Number 2, correct communication. People sitting on in every corner of the street and gossiping and fluffing about this person or that person and this community or that community is not communication. But they are not actually talking about correct communication, but they are indulging gossips, rumors, canards, grapevine, and all kinds of criticism and vilification. These are not the characteristics of the effective, correct communication. So correct communication means both the interlocutors passing the information to each other, which is 1000% veritable, absolutely bona fide, absolutely correct, absolutely truthful. Then it becomes a communication. Number 3, complete communication. Now, 2 interlocutors, 2 communicators, 2 people who start the conversation, start the communication. They must not actually abandon the communication, leave the communication incomplete. Whatever they started talking about, they should actually try to complete the communication, conclude the communication, reach to the end of communication in this way, both are definitely going to find out, what was the purpose, what was the aim, and what was the motive of communication, what one interlocutor was trying to tell the other interlocutor. And in this way, if communication is not complete, both of them will be in snafu. Both of them will be in snafu, in total confusion. Both will be thinking that why did we indulge in this communication which did not complete, which did not end, which did not conclude. And both are definitely going to be disappointed by this kind of incomplete communication. Number 4, concrete communication. Every single thing that has been said in any kind of communication must be concrete, solid. It must not be with lots of ifs and lots of buts. It must not be shallow communication. It must not be fluffy communication. It must not be gossipy communication. It must not be full of rumors, canard or grapevine, but concrete, truthful, very, very correct information about whatever the matter, whatever the subject matter, whatever the point is being discussed by both the communicators. Point number 5, concise. Concise, as a matter of fact, I should say concise communication. Concise means truncated communication, a short communication. Whatever you try to tell your friend should be told in a very concise manner. And whatever your friend is going to respond to should also be in a concise manner. You should not be verbose, and you should not actually keep on talking volumes about your ideas, about your thought, about your communication, but whatever the subject you have been touching upon, this subject should be actually said in a very concise manner, in a short manner, in a very truncated manner, so both of you can actually have ample amount of time to listen to each other and to try to understand. Concise thing can be understood fast. If you go on and on and on verbose and speak volumes about your communication, about your thought, about your ideas, about your point, that other communication will lose out in the middle of the communication. His attention will not actually stay pinned with your communication, with your point, with your ideas. And he's going to miss you. In the middle of the communication, he will be able to understand half of the thing he would have said, I was not paying attention. Why? Because your communication was boring. Communication was humdrum. Your communication was monotonous. Your communication was dull. And I had no interest, and as such, I missed you. Number 6, considered. When you communicate, you always consider your opposite communicator, the communicator that you communicate, the person whom you communicate. Your interlocutor must be considered whether he listens properly, he understands your language, he understands your words, letters, tone, tenor, meaning. Don't use too many jargons. Don't use too high-fi words. Don't use too many proverbs and too many idioms, and don't confuse him. So consider the knowledge, IQ, EQ, educational standard, the background, every single thing you consider about your interlocutor, and accordingly you behave, so that communication between you and your communicator can have absolutely desirable result. Must be result-oriented communication. You don't try to confuse anyone in your communication, but you try to actually make that person informed, aware, privy, knowledgeable about your ideas, your thoughts, your vision, your motives, etc. Number 7, courteous. I think that courteous is second most important characteristic of communication. Without courtesy, politeness, respecting each other, each other, when two communicators actually communicates or two interlocutors are engaged in interlocution, they should be courteous. They should be very polite to each other. They must be very respectful to each other. If there is no respect, there is no veneration. There is no courtesy in communication, that your communication will not be appreciated by your interlocutor. Your interlocutor is going to cut you short. Your interlocutor is going to leave you in the middle of the communication. Your interlocutor is not going to pay any attention whatsoever. And your interlocutor is not going to even acknowledge that he had any kind of communication with you, or he remembers any single thing. He's going to reject, he's going to discard your communication. Not only that, but he's going to disdain your rough and tough, rude and dud communication with you. So your communication should be skilled, must be respectful, courteous, with a lot of courtesy, lots of respect, and lots of acknowledgement. So these are the 7 C's of most effective communication introduced by Dr. Jim Stull. So that's all the time we have. Thank you very much for listening. See you again next time. Until then, God bless everyone on this planet. Amen.